Elon spent 44 billion buckaroos, is the legal term, on a dying social media platform that I happen to be a surprisingly big fan of. I can't be active on all social medias, but at least where I get the majority of my news, as well as engage with a lot of my community, it happens to be on Twitter, and he bought it. And his goal was to turn it into X, this super app that was going to do all things. He was trying to steal a lot of market share from other social media sites. He was trying to increase the engagement of it, and on multiple occasions said he thinks they can do better than YouTube. And many hardcore Tesla fans out there have been convinced that with the right leadership and the right management of Twitter, we could see the platform overtake YouTube. Right now, YouTube has a serious competitor, which is crazy as that sounds, I'm still in favor of, because I genuinely feel like YouTube can basically do whatever they want, because there isn't really a true YouTube competition. There's other sites that basically have to categorize themselves over different content. TikTok specializes in more short form. Twitch specializes in more live streaming, mostly in the gaming community. But YouTube is basically the monopoly on any kind of edited, longer form content. And I want something to compete with that, genuinely, because I think not necessarily that another platform would do better, but also YouTube could try harder to actually win us back or try to listen to its audience, because right now it feels like they kind of do whatever they want. So I was captivated by this idea. I was excited to see where Elon's new leadership might take the company, even though I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says. I'm not going to agree with probably most CEOs' political preferences. It's just Elon happens to flash us with no warning on all of his political preferences, way more than the average CEO, but I decided to take Twitter a bit more seriously, especially when they said they were going to start paying content creators for posting to the site. That's when you'll probably notice my tweet activity shot up. I was still using Twitter a lot before, but I didn't post very much because there really wasn't too much incentive for me to. I was mainly just using it as a way to read the news, interact with people, argue online with nerds. That's kind of the majority of my job. But they said as long as you got over 5 million impressions over a 90-day span and you paid for Twitter Blue, now they call it X Premium, which is stupid. I'm sorry, it's still called Twitter in my head, so I'm gonna keep calling it that. And some paychecks started coming in, and I saw a few other creators start experimenting with uploading content directly to Twitter, which I did for a couple of months just to see what it's like, see how it might affect monetization. There was some concern a lot of people had about, hey, wait, if you're posting videos to Twitter, that means people may stop watching you outside of YouTube, and depending on the CPMs for Twitter, maybe you'll make less money. Or I guess maybe if you were a Tesla fan, you would think maybe I'll make more money thanks to the great ad revenue of Twitter. But either way, I just wanted to experiment with it just to see what the data is like, which I'm going to be revealing to you all today. So obviously there's a lot of differences between the platforms, and I have a very large difference in followings. Here on YouTube, we got over like 200,000 subscribers, which I don't think really means anything because I pretty much never get over 200,000 views anymore, so it's not a great indication of followers. But over on Twitter, I have, over 40,000 followers, and again, very rarely do I ever have a tweet that gets like 40,000 likes or really that much engagement anyway. So follower counts aside, because Twitter is the new kid on the block, I want to give you the data on the best case scenario, okay? The video with the highest numbers that performed the best on Twitter out of all of the videos I uploaded over there, which was on October 11th, I uploaded a video called It's Time for iPhone to Go Ultra, which was a fun video that got a little over 30,000 impressions over on Twitter. And that's a funny word that we're going to have to come back to in a second, impressions. Because at first glance, you might look at that same video over on YouTube and say, hey, wait a minute, that only got 19,000 views. So you could look at Twitter and say, dang, I got the higher number over there. Therefore, I get better reach over on Twitter. I'm going to upload there so that more people discover me and I have more growth to reach a wider demographic of people because I couldn't get that many views over on YouTube. That's probably the narrative Elon wants to push on you too. And I've seen him do this several times where he'll just post a quote tweet. Look at how many views Marquez got on his video that was uploaded to Twitter versus how many views he got on YouTube. Yeah, okay, let's not dig deeper into that at all. No, today we're actually going to be explaining the difference between views and impressions. See, of course, Elon overpaid for Twitter. He acknowledges that. Everybody kind of knows that. So he's trying to drastically and as quickly as possible turn Twitter profitable, which, by the way, even before he bought it, Twitter was not doing very well. They were losing people every month and they were not turning a massive profit. So it's not like Twitter was this blossoming garden of great ideas and then Elon came in and wrecked it. I think it was kind of a demolished wasteland that Elon came in and started rearranging some of the garbage. But when I click on the actual analytics of the video that got over 30,000 impressions, you discover in that breakdown the actual difference between what an impression is, which they refer to as the number of times this post was seen, versus actual views, which refer to someone actually tapping on the video, hearing the audio, and watching the real thing. Essentially, impressions just means that someone scrolled past your video. It does not mean that they were actually watching it, which is why Elon or someone else at Twitter, I don't know whose idea this was, but I think it was someone's idea to say, let's get as many big numbers on tweets as possible, because that causes a big dopamine hit, and all the content creators posting, they go, wow, that's a high number. Ooh, that like first impression to that number is very satisfying. Look at how many people saw this tweet. Look at how many people saw this video, when in reality, it would be kind of like a bakery, you know, that just opened, counting the people walking by on the street as customers. That would be kind of inaccurate, right? Because not only did they not pay you anything, but they also didn't even walk inside the shop to see what was available. And there's definitely a ton more scrolling on Twitter going on than YouTube, because I think Twitter is primarily a news-based and commentary site focus. It is very text-oriented, not so much video-oriented like YouTube is. So opening up that video that seemingly got 30,000 impressions, and maybe people at Twitter will interchange that term with views. Yeah, about 30,000 people saw that video. Once you go to the actual video analytics that Twitter tells us, it says it only got about 5,700 views. And that's obviously much, much less than the 19,000 views that we got on YouTube, which, yeah, by the way, YouTube does not count you scrolling past a video as a view. Someone actually has to open it and watch it, I believe, more than 3 seconds for the view to officially be registered. And they try to boast it a little bit by saying with unique views, which they don't really dive too much more into, but they're saying there were 4,800 unique views, maybe meaning that there were people that perhaps didn't follow me or something that passed this video or listened to it for a few seconds. Maybe you could argue that that's good for growth, and that will boost your profile and your brand, and your content will be seen by more people now because it's being pushed by the For You section on Twitter. But right above that, we can see that this video resulted in me getting 1 new follower, again, on my best performing video on Twitter, and we only got 33 profile visits. So out of the 33 people that saw this video and tapped on my profile, only 1 of them hit follow, and that's on what I thought was a pretty decent performing video. Like, this is best case scenario for my Twitter. And by far the biggest difference that I don't think there's much Elon can really do about, because of how Twitter is fundamentally used by the general public, even if the numbers were pretty parallel. Let's say the views on YouTube and Twitter were the same. In this specific scenario, there would still be a ginormous gap between audience retention, which they do thankfully give us the analytics on, which show us that, okay, 100% of the impressions, or those 5,700 views, I should say, saw the first 0 seconds. Okay, that one probably shouldn't count, because obviously it wouldn't be counted as a view if they didn't watch that much. But then as soon as you go 1 section ahead to the how many people watched it until the 2 minutes and 45 second mark, it says 1%, which I'm pretty sure is actually less than that, because all the other sections are also saying 1%. They probably just don't show anything below, so that's an incredibly low amount of audience retention for an 11-minute video, whereas let's compare it to YouTube, where the audience is a bit more keen to watching longer form edited content. So yeah, 19,000 views, which is really great, and it said the average percentage viewed was about 50.9%. Pretty typical for most of my videos. And if we go to the very, very end of the audience retention chart, it says 25% of people actually finished the video, which is kind of impressive considering most people, including myself, would click off as soon as I started saying things like, what do you guys think? You know, leave a comment down below, and thank you to our members, and then I play the outro. Most people don't make it that far. So we're looking at people actually finishing the real commentary of the video at 30% of 19,000. Okay, so doing some basic math here, that means that around 5,700 people watched the video from start all the way to the end, which is about the same number of people that just clicked on the video on Twitter, but of course, less than 1% of them actually finished the video. Probably no one really did, but even if we assume that Twitter is right, and let's say 1% of people made it 2 minutes into the video, we're talking 57 people actually watched this video for more than a couple of seconds. That shows you the drastic differences in audience retention between these two platforms. And on top of that, YouTube tells us that we got 21 subscribers gained from this video versus the 1 new follower gained from Twitter. YouTube also tells us the watch time, which is arguably more important because that's how advertisers and YouTube kind of know how to pay you based on how many minutes watched were on on your channel, and YouTube tells us exactly how much revenue that individual video made, whereas Twitter at this time basically just sends you some money every 2 weeks, and then that's it. You don't know exactly which posts were bringing in the most revenue. Elon has told us that the revenue calculations, like how much you actually make, is still very much in beta. They're not really revealing how that's calculated. All they've kind of told us is that it's based on ads that show up in the replies of your tweets, which I believe means that if you have a tweet with less impressions that gets a lot of replies, you're probably going to make more money than a tweet that gets a bunch of impressions but not a lot of replies. But again, it's not very clear because we just see a paycheck every 2 weeks, and the impressions that we get between those don't seem to correlate. And I find it funny that if replies are the biggest way that you gain ad revenue, why then do you require impressions for people to get monetized? Shouldn't you require it based on replies and not an obscure metric that doesn't actually affect how much revenue you generate? And I'll keep going just so you guys are in the loop, but basically my iPhone Ultra video on YouTube made about $75. On Twitter, we have no idea how much that video made, but let's just grab a full month's worth of impressions. So in the last 28 days, my Twitter earned about 6.7 million impressions, and that translated to around $45 worth of ad revenue. Okay, so close to half as much as that single YouTube video made, which was not like an amazing performing video. 19,000 views is kind of average for my channel, but still, that video probably took me 1 to 2 hours to make, and that performed a heck of a lot better than a month's worth of tweeting, which is why at this point, Twitter is by no means any threat to YouTube, particularly when it comes to engagement and reach. And I think it's because the platforms are fundamentally used differently. And on top of all of this, the reason I've actually stopped uploading my videos to Twitter is not because I'm worried about revenue loss, like, oh no, people are going to watch my videos on Twitter and then I'll make less money on YouTube, because obviously less than 50 people are actually finishing the video on Twitter on my best performance, whereas on YouTube, thousands of people are likely finishing the video, and that means a lot better for ad revenue for my channel. But on top of that, Twitter has not been well optimized for video content, I must say. With YouTube, there is like pretty much any video file format you can imagine, you can just throw up there, and YouTube can optimize it for HDR, 60 frames a second, up to 8K. There's so many options in settings to choose from. Plus, YouTube has Creator Studio on the phone and on the desktop, so I can leave a video uploading and then go out, hang out with some friends, check on my phone. Oh, the video's done uploading now, it's finished processing. I can update the thumbnail from here, I can update the description, and I can hit post and share that link around with people. Whereas with Twitter, if you leave a video uploading, then it's never gonna get uploaded. I've tried the schedule post option, it does not work. It doesn't accept that many file formats. In fact, it's very picky with which file formats you can upload. The audio breaks anytime I upload a video that's at 60 frames a second. It definitely doesn't support anything above 1080p. In fact, it often stops me from uploading videos from having like a 1 gig file limit for a video that's a certain length. So they'll just say, oh no, you can't upload this video in 1080p, it's too big. Which is funny because they don't support the higher efficiency video codecs that YouTube does. So usually when I'm done editing a video, I can export it on Final Cut at a compressed format that's still fairly high resolution thanks to HEVC or H.264, whatever you want to use. And I can just throw that up on YouTube and it uploads a lot faster because it's a smaller file size. Whereas Twitter says, oh no, this is 60 frames a second, I'm not gonna like it. Or it says that the file size is too big. And of course, I like uploading a lot of high resolution, high frame rate content to YouTube. That's just kind of what I like, and that's what my audience seems to prefer. So whenever I wanted to post a video to Twitter, I had to re-export it again, usually at 720p 30 frames a second at a different file format, which is still larger. Even though the frame rate and resolution is lower, it's still big. And then Twitter doesn't give you much information on the upload time. It just says 1%, 2%, 3%. It doesn't give you an ETA. It doesn't tell you how much longer there's going to be, whereas YouTube does. Tells you exactly based on your internet speed how much longer the upload has. And again, I can't manage that video after I hit upload. I just have to stay at the computer until it's ready and hit post. And then of course, the viewing experience on Twitter, in my opinion, is far worse than YouTube. The resolutions are worse, the quality settings are worse, there's no caption support, the compression looks far worse, and it's a lot of extra work on my end to have to re-export the video twice because Twitter is so picky with its file formats, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like Twitter, if you're trying to save space on servers, why don't you accept smaller file sizes? That would actually save you cloud storage, however much you're paying for. So this is ultimately why I decided that uploading uploading my videos to Twitter was not worth it. Now, I'm still very grateful that Twitter does pay you based on your posts, and that's why I continue to post there. I enjoy engaging with the community. I enjoy throwing out ideas and seeing how you guys respond. I still think it's a great platform. I just don't think it's really a YouTube competitor. Even though it does let you upload videos and stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean that for content creators it makes financial sense to post videos there if the audience retention is going to be far worse and the revenue per view is going to be much, much less as well. Particularly when Elon can say something that can be misinterpreted by the media and suddenly all the advertisers pull out, that's likely going to have a big effect on your ad revenue. Regardless of what you think of Elon, people don't want to go around defending him and say, no, that's not actually what he really said. It doesn't matter, okay? The damage is done PR-wise, which is why most CEOs just try to be as clean and as safe as possible. Don't really speak too much on many political subjects because they know how easily it is for it to be misinterpreted or in the media, and then you piss off all the advertisers and they leave, and your content creators make a heck of a lot less money because of that. So as long as the ad revenue from Twitter continues to pay for the $8 a month, I'm going to keep paying for it because sure, I'm making money off that, and it is a very, very passive form of income for me. It's just like I go on my phone. I can do that on the toilet. I can do that when I'm charging my car. I can just be hanging out on the couch, or in the past couple weeks if I'm sick and I'm not feeling well enough to actually record a video, I can just send some tweets and technically make a little bit of money off of that. Not like enough money to live off of, but it's possible to actually generate an income, whereas if I used Reddit or I used Discord, I'm not going to be generating anything from that. So this is why YouTube, I don't think, is going anywhere in terms of video content, and that's why I stopped uploading my content to Twitter, even though I very much plan on still being active there. But do you guys have different numbers or different analytics for your channels or Twitter profiles out there? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.